All right, and here we are with Slope-Intercept form with me, Mr. Hayne. All right, our essential question for today is, how can I find the slope and y-intercept from two variable equations? All right, so slope-intercept form, super duper important. It is absolutely the basic method to graph lines in a coordinate plane. And the essential question, how can I find the slope and y-intercept from a two variable equation, is meant to really just allow us to understand the information that's presented in the slope-intercept form. All right, go ahead and pause the video if you're still writing. I'll be here when you get back. And we're back. All right, so we got to use y equals mx plus b. And this right here is the slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. So we're going to unpack each part of this. So we're going to, in example A, state the slope and y-intercept of the graph for the equation y equals 2/3 x minus 4. All right. So we know that the slope-intercept form of the equation is y equals mx plus b. And m is the slope. It's the number in front of x. M is the slope. It's the number in front of x. Okay, cool. And let's take a look at the number after x, b. B is the y-intercept. It's the number after x, after x, after x. Okay, cool. It's the number after x. And most importantly, when this two-variable equation is solved for y, we typically see that m is the number in front of x, or the x coefficient, and b is the y-intercept, or the constant term. Okay, so what does this mean? So b is the y-intercept, means literally where the line crosses the x-axis, or the y-axis, sorry, where the line crosses the y-axis, because it's the y-intercept. So right here, at that pink dot, you see that the line crosses the y-axis, and that is our y-intercept. That is b. Okay. So for the equation that was given to us, y equals 2/3 x minus 4, you might have guessed it already, but yes, 2/3 is the slope. Rise over run, rise 2, right 3. And then we have the y-intercept, which of course is -4. b equals -4. So that equation, or the line that is represented by that, all the solutions in that equation, crosses the y-axis at -4. Okay, if you think you got it, go ahead and do the problems B, C, and D on your own. Go ahead and check with a partner if you're done. I'm going to pause the video. You should pause the video. I'll be here when you're done with B, C, and D. And we're back! Okay, cool. So level 1 problems. E is just a quick review. You should be able to do E on your own, no problem. All right, and then F. F is different, F, G, and H. So to take a look at what we're doing, I'm going to start building a format that we can use. So please don't write down everything, because when we get to like level 4, that's when you write down everything. Okay, so let's take a look at a problem that looks kind of like H. So what am I going to do? This is not in slope-intercept form, so I have to solve the equation so it goes to slope-intercept form. So I'm going to slow way down. The goal is to make the equation y equals mx plus b. And here you see that the x term is on the same side of the equal sign as y. Ain't going to work. So let's move the x term to the right side. And to do that, I do the inverse. So this is a positive 5, so I subtract 5 from each side. I'm going to make sure the x term is first. So I have y equals -5x plus 1/3. Okay, why does it look like this? Why does it look like this? Okay, I subtracted here, and there's a lot of people, common mistake alert, that actually just say, okay, I'm going to do 1/3 minus 5. But notice that this 1/3 is a constant term. It does not have a variable x next to it. Therefore, I cannot combine the 1/3 and the -5x. So what I do is I just put them in an order. It's a positive 1/3, so it's plus 1/3. And I want the -5x to be in front because remember, the goal is to have it be y equals mx plus b. So the x term must be first. Sweet. So let's identify the slope and y-intercept. So, are there any hands up? Yeah, seriously, it should be -5 is the slope, and the y-intercept is 1/3. Kaboom! All right, F, G, and H can be solved exactly like this. So if you're doing this in the classroom or at home, pause the video, complete F, G, and H. Have people check with each other or compare their answer to the teacher once and then have that person help around the room, whatever the adult in the classroom wants to do. If you're at home, go ahead and check your work by making sure that you've done that the same way as my example. This should be a long pause. And if you're at home or if you're in the classroom, this very well might take more than 50 to 60 minutes to complete of solid work and watch. So go ahead and pause the video. I'll stop talking. I'll be here when you get back. Level 2, same basic principle, but if you see all of the problems I, J, and K have a negative Y. So what do we do? Let's take a look at an example. So recall, our goal is to make the equation y equals mx plus b. We know this. So I'm going to repeat some of the steps as I did before. There's a reason why I'm not asking you to write them down. It's because there's a ton of steps that you'll see. Lots of ifs, but we want to take it one step at a time so we become familiar with doing them along the way. So please don't write down these steps quite yet. So just as we did before, we're going to move the x term to the right side of the equal sign. Doing the opposite, I subtract 2x. From each side, this is a constant. I cannot combine them, so make sure the x term is first. Negative y equals negative 2x plus 2. Now here's the problem. Some people forget that that minus y is actually a negative y. It is a negative y. I like to say a shorthand way of remembering is the operation is the sign if there's nothing else in front of the number. So let's take and see how we can make that y positive. So if the y is negative, change the sign of all terms. Basically what I'm doing is multiplying everything times negative 1 or dividing everything by negative 1. It's the same exact thing. What the result is the sign of each term changes. Let's take a look. Negative y becomes positive, negative becomes positive, positive becomes negative. And now I have y equals mx plus b. And we are ready to go. So once I have y equals mx plus b, all I have to do is identify the slope and y-intercept. So you guys should see right away the slope is positive 2 and the y-intercept is negative 2. So go ahead and pause the video. I'll be here when you get back and you finish I, J, and K just like this example. Level 3. Okay, so now we're getting into the nitty gritty. And you see I already have stuff on the screen to get ready. I'm not trying to rhyme, but I won't do it this time. All I gotta do is make the equation look like my goal. Y equals mx plus b. And here we see a couple of things happening. I do have a negative in front of my y, but this is the first time I have a coefficient for y, which means I'm going to have to divide eventually. So let's take a look. We're adding to our list of steps. You guys should know already what to do. If the x is on the same side, I got to move the x term to the right side. So let's move the x term to the right side. And here it's negative, so I'm going to add. And remember that negative 25 is constant. It has no x, which means that I cannot combine it with the plus 10x. So it's not negative 15x. I just make sure that the x term is first. So I have negative 5y equals 10x minus 25. That's a negative in front of my y. So I'm going to change signs of all the terms. So I'm going to go through and change all the signs. And yes, this is extra steps. So if you're watching at home, I'm doing extra steps. I'm breaking it down extra small. Once I have this, I'm actually going to have my next new topic. And here, y has a coefficient. It's a number in front of y. So I'm going to divide each term by that number. And here's what it looks like. I literally divide each term by 5. And when I do that, that allows me to change the equation so that I have 5 divided by 5 is 1. And so I have 1y, which is exactly what I need. So let's take a look at what that looks like. Kaboom! So 5 divided by 5 is 1y, which cancels out the coefficient in front of y. Sorry, misspoke there for a second. And then I have negative 10 divided by 5, which is negative 2. And 25 divided by 5, which is 5. Now all I have left to do is to identify the slope and y-intercept. And of course, kaboom, the slope is negative 2 and the y-intercept is 5. All right, ladies and gentlemen, time for level 3. Put on those thinking caps and go ahead and solve L, M, and N just like I did this example. Pause the video. And remember, don't write all of this stuff down. Do it at the end. I'll tell you when. Pause the video and do L, M, and N. I'll be here when you get back. And we're back for level 4. Oh, get excited. They get slowly more and more difficult, just like a video game, because for me, math is kind of like that. It's a video game and a language all wrapped up in one. Okay, so we've got a lot of stuff happening with level 4, OP and Q. So I have an example like OP and Q right up here on the screen, and to remember that our goal is always to make it y equals mx plus b. All right. So move the x term to the right side. You already know to do this. To do the opposite, I have a positive 6x, so I'm going to subtract. I know you already know you cannot combine these terms because the 14 has no x. You're right. So let's go ahead and let's take a look. We're going to make sure that that x term is first. So I have negative 5y equals negative 6x plus 14. Okay, and that y has a negative coefficient, so I'm going to change the sign of all the terms, aka divide or multiply everything by negative 1. And what that will do is change that negative 5 to positive, that negative 6 to positive, and that positive 14 to a negative 14. All right, so if the y has a coefficient, which is a number in front, I'm going to divide every term by that number. So divide everything by 5. But here, we have a problem. See, the thing is, 5 divides by 5 to give us y. However, none of the other fractions reduce. It doesn't matter. Fractions are numbers too. So, we can leave them as fractions. Don't stress. It's actually more exact, especially with awkward denominators. Not 5, but like 7, or 3 especially, or 9 especially. So, once we have this, then I can identify, if no term reduces, to leave them as fractions, which is what we just talked about, and identify the slope and y-intercept. So the slope is m. It's the number in front of x, in front of x, in front of x. And that is 6/5. And we can identify the y-intercept, the number in back of x, in back of x, in back of x. The constant term, it is negative 14 over 5. Kaboom! Go ahead and pause the video. I'll be here when you get back. Level 5. You're ready to reach the last level of everything, where I mess with your head. And so does math. Okay, so I already have an example up here for R, S, T, and U. And you'll notice something. All those Y's are on a weird side of the formula. They're all on the right side. What do I do? Remember, if Y is on the wrong side, I can just reorder the problem. I can literally just put the Y on the other side. Check it out. 8x minus 11 didn't change. I just made the negative 8y in front. Sweet. Okay, so the x term is on the right side. Okay, make sure the x term is first. It is. Okay. But the y has a negative sign in front. So I'm going to divide everything by negative 1. That's going to change the sign of each term. So instead of negative 8y, I have 8y. Instead of positive 8x, I have negative 8x. Instead of negative 11, I have positive 11. So y has a coefficient, which is a number in front. So I'm going to divide each term by that number. Okay, so remember, I'm just dividing each one by 8. And when I do, note some terms won't reduce, but some terms do. 8 divided by 8 is 1y, which is what I wanted. Negative 8 divided by positive 8 is negative 1. So I can reduce that one. But 11 divided by 8 does not reduce. So I'm going to leave it as a fraction. So if I leave it as a fraction, kaboom, I can actually identify the slope and y-intercept. Boom! It's right there. Sweet! Slope is negative 1 or negative 1 over 1. And the y-intercept, or b, is 11 over 8. Okay. You've got some writing to do. So here's what I would suggest. In your notes, maybe on the back side or the blank side, you actually write down this entire list step by step. That way you understand. The goal always is to get at y equals mx plus b. And if the y is on the wrong side, reorder the problem. And then if you follow steps 1, 2, and 3, and all of the little steps for 2, you're always going to be able to identify the slope and y-intercept. So go ahead and write those down on the back of your paper. Or if you're following along at home, write them down when you're writing them down. Or type them in your computer or your phone. And go ahead and pause the video, do R, S, T, and U the same way I did level 5. And I'll be here when you get back. Ladies and gentlemen, we've reached the end. Now, this video, while it might just be short, is not actually short in real time. It could very well take you almost an hour and a half to get through this video. It is that meaty. There is a lot of practice to do. Do not rush, people. If you're at home, if you're in a classroom and you're following along with my notes, go ahead and write your summary and make sure your table of contents is updated. If you're at home, then write them down. Do whatever it is that you do to keep track. And until next time, people, keep doing the math.